Hey again, it's Sean Clausen with Dynamic Shooting Systems, and we're here to do a pistol review of the Glock 17 Generation 2 pistol. Before we get started, I just want to go ahead and perform a visual and physical inspection just to ensure that the gun is unloaded. I don't have any live ammo in the area around here whatsoever, so there shouldn't be any live ammo in the firearm. So, a brief history of the Glock pistols. Gaston Glock, he was a plastics manufacturer of some type in Austria. Had some influence in with the Austrian military and found out that they are going to do pistol trials to replace their aging Walther P38 pistols. So he grabbed a couple weapons designers, and together they came up with a design that they submitted for the pistol trials. The Austrian army adopted it. Became known as the Pistol 80. And from there, as they say, the rest is history. There's plenty of information, plenty of books out there about the history of Glock. Go ahead and check those out. Some interesting reading. But how it came to our shores here is the United States Department of Defense had requested some copies of Glock's pistol. Glock sent them 4 pistols, and however, Glock did not submit a sample for the U.S. Army XM9 pistol trials. So there was not a sample for the pistol trials in the mid-80s. 86, this Glock 17 started showing up here in America, and the biggest boost for them is when the Miami Police Department adopted the Glock 17 as their primary sidearm. And Glock's success just took off from there. There's been estimates that they own anywhere from 55 to 75% of the American law enforcement market. And you know, maybe the same is true for the subsequent civilian market as well. But very successful pistol series, pretty reliable, pretty affordable pistols, and that's why they're so popular over here. Basically, the Glock 17 has a 17 round polymer double column magazine. There is a steel lining inside here just to keep it from deforming. The original magazines did not have this, and what would happen over time is, after loading it several times, the mags would bulge and they would get hung up in the grip frame here and have to be pulled free, and that's why they're called the non-drop free magazines. This is a drop free mag that as soon as you depress the mag release, the mag will freely drop from the gun. So that's pretty much your feeding device. Very simple design, much like the rest of the pistol. How the pistol operates is it's a delayed blowback, mechanically locked pistol. Its operating system was borrowed from the Browning High Power, in the fact that there are lugs in the frame that correspond to the lugs in the bottom of the barrel, and the barrel also locks up at the very top of the slide here, the very front of the slide in the ejection port. So what will happen is the gun will fire, everything will unlock, go against recoil spring pressure, extract and eject a round. It'll pick up a round off the mag, feed it back into the chamber, trigger resets, and then it's ready to fire, ready to go again. As you notice here, going over the controls of the pistol, you see 3. You see the magazine release, the slide lock, as Glock prefers to call it. They don't like to call it a slide release. However, that's how I end up releasing the slide. And you have a takedown lever. So those are the only external controls that you see here on the frame of the weapon. There are no external safeties on the Glock. However, there are 3 internal safeties. Okay. The first of which is a mechanical drop safety. And what happens is when the trigger is all the way forward, ready to fire, there's a ledge that will not allow the cruciform to drop, and thereby releasing the striker. So only with rearward trigger pressure will that cruciform right here in that notch allow it to drop down far enough to release the striker. So there is what's referred to as the drop safety, which is the first one. Second safety is going to be a striker safety, and it's this plunger right here. And what it does when it's activated is it doesn't allow the striker to go all the way forward until it's depressed by the trigger assembly itself. Then, as you can see, it goes all the way forward. Again, if it's out, doesn't allow the striker to go forward. If depressed, it allows the striker to go all the way forward, thereby firing the round. So you have a striker safety, and then the third safety on the Glock pistol here is a trigger safety. You see that little lever in the middle? It needs to be depressed to allow the trigger to go all the way to the rear, and then fire the pistol. So those are the three safeties in this particular weapon system, thereby making it very safe. And the only way that this gun can fire is if something goes into the trigger guard and depresses the trigger to the rear. Most notably, probably fingers. Some of the modifications that I've done to this particular generation of pistols, the Gen 2, what makes it different from the other generations is it has a streamlined dust cover here. It doesn't have a rail to allow mounting of the slides, such as the Gen 3 or the Gen 4. Also, there was some texturing that was put into the sides and the front and back straps of the pistol itself that differentiated it from the Pelgrim finish of the Generation 1. The Generation 2 also had a captive recoil spring assembly where it could be removed, and you can't remove basically the spring from the recoil guide assembly itself, or it's not designed to be done that way. Whereas on the Gen 1, the spring and the guide rod were separate. So those are some differences between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. Now I've made some modifications to this pistol, as you can see. The first of which was the permanent addition of a grip force adapter. I bonded the grip force adapter to the frame, and then basically had sanded it down and blended it into the frame. What that allows me to do is it allows the back strap to be straight and gives me more surface area to get better traction onto the pistol versus trying to fight the Glock hump down here at the bottom, which ends up kind of pushing the rear of my hand away and causing me to fight for traction on the pistol. With a straight back strap, I don't have to do that. Also, an advantage of the grip force adapter, it adds a little bit of a beaver tail, so when the slide reciprocates, it doesn't leave railroad tracks on my beefy, reed, fatty hand or web of my hand here, as it would with the traditional Glock grip tang up here. I've also obviously 360 degrees stippled the grip. It gives me better traction, allows me to get more surface on the area of the firearm itself, and allows me to maintain contact with the frame under recoil instead of having it work independently of my hand under recoil. I did it about 1,000,001 times with the rounded tip of a wood burner, and that's the texture that I came up with. It's pretty grippy. It's like gripping a lava rock, but I like it. Again, it cements the frame of the pistol into my hand. I added a extended Glock mag release that I ended up just smoothing out the corners on so I didn't have any sharp edges on them. And I added a Vickers Tactical Tango Down slide release lever. And with the grip force adapter here, it increases the grip distance from the trigger to the beaver tail area of the pistol. So what that allows me to do is allows me to get my hand up here without interfering with that extended slide release. On a traditional Glock that doesn't have this modification, I can't run an extended one because this beefy portion of my hand will always activate that slide release and kick it up about mid-magazine. So I have to run standard slide releases, or slide lock as Glock calls them, on a standard pistol that's not modified. I also rounded the trigger guard. I don't use the European style of the finger forward on the trigger guard, so I didn't need the hook on there. So I just went ahead and removed it and smoothed it out. My sights are stock profile, and what that allows me to do in regards to the height is there's less of a height variance between the bore line of the barrel itself and the very tip of the front sight. So what that means is less variance up and down when I'm firing multiple shots. So that's why I like the stock profile. This is an all-metal rear sight by Ameriglo, and the notch has been opened up a little bit. I believe the rear notch width is a 1/67th width. And then my front sight, as hopefully you can see, is the Ameriglo cap sight, which is a high visibility contrast orange square box, and it has a tritium vial in the center of it. So those are the sights that I run. As my eyes get older, I really need that high contrast front sight to really draw my eye to the front sight when I'm firing. As you can see, I've added a KKM precision barrel on there. Not so much to shoot super tight groups, but just to make my group pattern more consistent. And I seem to get that out of the KKM precision barrel. So that's what I'm looking for, is consistency when firing multiple shots. And that's the reason why that's there. Not so much for shrinking grip sizes. I also don't shoot lead reloads, so I didn't really have a need to replace it with a cut rifle barrel like the KKM Precision one is. Again, it's just really to give me a consistent shot group or a shot pattern. One of the last modifications that I've done, as you can see, is the stainless guide rod. What that allows me to do is it allows me to change up the spring rate. The Glock 17s have a 17-pound spring rate. I run a 15-pounder, and what that allows me to do is when that slide reciprocates, there's less jump forward at the rear of the slide travel when it starts moving forward, and what that translates to is less movement in my front sight. So I like to run a 15-pound spring. It's extremely reliable. I've never had any issues or problems with it. I try to go down to a 12-pound recoil spring, just again to make it more flat shooting, and I had all sorts of malfunctions, so I knew that that was too light. So the 15-pound recoil spring really works pretty well for me in and of itself. So that's pretty much it for the Glock 17 Gen 2, at least my version of it, and hopefully you found some useful information out of that. Let's go ahead and head out to the range, shoot this, and kind of see how it does on the DSS 5.5 and 5 drill. Thanks for tuning in. Again, www.dynamicshootingsystems.com should have all sorts of updated information for you on the website. Thanks a lot. Okay, welcome back to the shooting portion of the Glock 17 Gen 2, which we're going to be shooting today. And we're going to shoot the DSS 5.5 and 5 drill, which once again, 5 rounds, 5 yards, 5 seconds par time for all 4 stages, and you're shooting into the head of the DSS target, which is 4 inches. Alright, so let's have a go at it, and we'll see how the Glock Gen 2 G17 does. Gen 2 Glock 17. Looks like I have 3 out down here, and on one of those I had one that was over the time. So total of 21 out of 25. Again, anything over 20 on the DSS 5.5 and 5 is always pretty decent. Obviously the 3 that were out, jankety trigger press. You need to get out to the range more and practice. Kind of the practice as you preach type saying right there. So that's it. Go to www.dynamicshootingsystems.com. There's a link directly to the YouTube video, or my YouTube channel, where this video will be posted. Obviously you're watching that, so you already know that. There's plenty of other information on the dynamicshootingsystems.com website. Upcoming courses. There's a news tab in there. You can check that out. See what my thoughts are for the month, or the week, or the day. And there you have it. Appreciate you checking out the video. Thanks.